Jim Nash winning the re-election to the Water Resources Commissioner position with just over 400,000 votes. And with that, let's go ahead and bring in Jim so that he can tell us a little bit. I will say for the most part, Jim, I'm surprised that this position is actually elected, because if you went out and took a poll, how many people do you think would actually understand what you and your team do over there?
That's true. It's one of those things that it's most communities, counties, is still called the Drain Commissioner, and we do so much more that we renamed it the Water Resources Commissioner back in 2009, I believe. Um, Again, absolutely. This is an office that has a huge impact. When they settled Michigan, they realized that we were basically a huge swamp. So if they wanted to grow crops, they had to have drains, and that's kind of where it started. The drain offices have been around for 125 years.
I know we've had you on the show before. You are a Democrat. You beat out the Republican Jim Stevens to maintain your position there as the Water Resource Commissioner. Going forward, what is on the top of your list to try to be able to accomplish in your next term?
Oh, there's a lot to do. Stormwater is one of our big issues for pollution of our lakes, rivers, and streams, our inland lakes in Oakland County. I know West Bloomfield is very aware of pollution in lakes, of algae, and all those things. You guys are one of the strongest water ordinances there are in Michigan. We The biggest thing we're looking for now is climate change. Climate change is bringing much heavier storms. We've seen that just this year. We had the saturation levels of mid-Michigan that caused the dams to break. We've seen massive storms in Oakland County. Back in 2014, a few years ago, up in the UP, they had a town where virtually the whole town was kind of wiped out by a storm. So these are the kind of things we have to deal with. We have to use mitigation by getting off fossil fuels. We're working on that at the county. My office just opened a new operation in Pontiac where we're replacing all the fossil fuels to operate the wastewater treatment plant with methane that we'll be bringing out of the wastewater we treat itself. So we'll be energizing our operations there by treating the waste and removing methane from it to operate the entire facility. That's the kind of things we can do. We can start shifting off all these fossil fuels that are causing climate change. And at the same time, we have to build resiliency to these storms. We have to build our systems so they can take these very large storms. In January of this year, January 15th, we saw a 3-inch rainstorm come through this area. That's what climate change is. This is what we're going to have to be dealing with. We used to have most of our issues with rain used to be in the summer and spring and fall. Now it's all year round. So these are the kind of things we're going to have to address in the coming years. And I've been working on this since I've been in office, so it's nothing new to me, but we're helping communities deal with this.
Your work is so important to the entire Oakland County area and beyond. How much does politics play in your day-to-day work and your plans for what you want to be able to accomplish?
Well, I try to keep politics to a minimum. The 6 months around an election, other than that, my 3.5 years in office, we don't do politics. We deal with every community in Oakland County one way or another, from Holly and the top of the county to Royal Oak and Ferndale in the bottom of the county. So we deal with everybody. Everybody has water issues that they need to help with. So there's no politics in what I do as an operation. So we work with everybody. I have great relationships with virtually every community in Oakland County because we help them in what they do. And when we're there to help, they're there to ask us for it. So we're happy to work with every community in Oakland County, and that's what our job.
Jim Nash with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. He is the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner, winning re-election for another term in the seat as the Water Resources Commissioner. And with that, Jim, I have to ask you back in the beginning, why did you decide to run for this position when you seem like you're a scientist, not so much a politician?
But I don't know about that, but I've been an environmentalist my whole life since really I was a Boy Scout. When I was a county commissioner for 8 years from Farmington Hills, I kind of led green efforts. We did a lot of work around sustainability. We worked on green building for our campus for all the operations we do. So I've been doing this a very long time. I've been working with communities. I did green building workshops every year when I was a county commissioner, and every year I've done, as a water resources commissioner, we've done stormwater summits. We do these stormwater summits at Lawrence Tech, just up the road from Farmington Hills here. And we have people from all over the county talk about all the issues around stormwater, especially around green building, to green infrastructure, to help deal with that, with all the costs of gray infrastructure, pipes and pumps and underground tanks, all those things that cost a lot of money. So if we can help communities and individuals, property owners, develop ways of keeping rainwater on their property, you'll have less flooding, you'll have less pollution of our lakes, rivers, and streams. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help communities educate their citizens and how to do this in the long-term way that's going to help protect us from these storms that are going to just be getting worse over the years.
And we've all had people that we know that have lived through some of these flooding disasters. Their basements have flooded. They've lost so much, and they go through it and they say, oh, it's a 100-year storm. And then 6 months later or the next year, they go through it again. And it can be devastating because a lot of times it's hard to keep claiming that on your insurance as well. And knowing that, Jim, and your passion for the environment, I think one of the things that's been great about what you do over there is try to spark an interest and a passion in the younger generation. We're in the middle of a pandemic. How do you try to keep that going?
It's not as easy as it was. We had in the spring, in April, we had our planning for our first watershed festival for high school students. It was going to be called Blue Planet Jobs, to help them understand the importance of the environment and the potential for their future and having jobs to make sure it's protected. So we'll be doing that remotely, but hopefully next year we'll be able to do these meetings again, because like you said, the younger generation is totally understanding climate change. I have talked to so many kids from high school, college, and my young career professionals, my young engineers, totally understand where this is coming from. They look at the data. They show that big storms are getting more common, that the atmosphere is warming up. There's just no denying it. The warmer atmosphere can hold more moisture once it reaches the Great Lakes, which is a heat sink because lakes are colder. That's why we're getting these much larger storms. They understand that. We just had it last year at the Stormwater Summit. We had some college students who developed a new battery for a sensor to sense water levels and pollution levels and things like that. It looks small on your thumbnail. It's a tiny little battery that can last 2 weeks, developed by a couple of kids that just coming out of high school. They have their minds set on this stuff. This is what's going to save us. This next generation is going to save us because they are thinking. They are working on these things that we're leaving the problems with. I tell them, the folks that are leaving them these problems look kind of like me, maybe not the beard, but my age, and I'm old white guys that made these decisions that are leaving the climate in peril. So they understand it. This generation, I have faith that they're going to make this happen. And I'm trying to make sure that they understand this, and I'm working as hard as I can to educate everybody around that. But this generation is going to help solve our problems.
Well, thank you for fostering that passion in the younger generation as well. And thank you for what you do for the greater West Bloomfield area, as well as the entire Oakland County. Jim Nash, winning re-election, the Democratic wave continuing here in Oakland County, beating out Jim Stevens to maintain his position as the Water Resources Commissioner.